You are watching India Global with me, Parmeshwar Bawa. The BRICS Club is expanding its ranks by inviting Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Argentina and Ethiopia. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping met on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit. We cover all this and more on this episode of India Global. Let's begin with the headlines. In a landmark decision, members of the BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa bloc have declared expansion of the grouping by welcoming 6 new countries into the fold. The Prime Minister declares in Johannesburg that India welcomes the expansion of BRICS through a consensus-based approach. Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping meet on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit. They agree to expeditiously de-escalate and disengage along the LAC. This meet stirs controversy after India rejects China's claim that the meeting was initiated by India. US President Joe Biden will be in New Delhi from the 7th of September till the 10th and will urge reforms to the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank at the G20 summit in Delhi, as per the White House. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin will not attend the G20 summit in New Delhi in person, the Kremlin has said. Former US President Donald Trump now has a mugshot. Facing 13 counts related to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election, Trump surrendered to Georgia law enforcement. He was taken into custody, or as he put it, arrested by a radical left low-life district attorney. Putin breaks his silence over Yevgeny Prigozhin's reported death some 24 hours after the Wagner chief's private jet crashed. Russia's president stopped short of confirming the death, says the head of the mercenary group was a talented person who made serious mistakes in life. Meanwhile, the US rejects suggestions that a surface-to-air missile brought down Prigozhin's plane. The moment that 1 billion Indians have been waiting for has finally arrived, with ISRO sharing the first selfies from the moon's surface of Indian robots Vikram and Pragyan. Well, in a landmark decision, members of the BRICS have declared expansion of the grouping by welcoming 6 new countries into the fold. But this is just the first round of expansion of BRICS. Over 20 formal applications have been received and more than 40 countries want in. Take a look at our report.
We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of BRICS.
BRICS nations have now expanded the bloc by inviting 6 other countries, 3 from the Gulf, 2 from Africa and 1 from Latin America, to be full members on the 24th of August. This grouping is set to become an 11-nation group from the 1st of January 2024. While India has played a key role in building consensus, this expansion is also a message to institutions like the United Nations.
भारत का ये मत रहा है कि नए सदस्यों के जुड़ने से विश्व के अनेक देशों का मल्टीपोलर वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर में विश्वास और सुदृढ़ होगा। भारत के इन सभी देशों के साथ बहुत ही गहरे संबंध हैं। इस बात का संदेश है कि विश्व के सभी इंस्टीट्यूशंस को बदलते समय की परिस्थितियों के अनुरूप ढलना चाहिए। ये एक ऐसी पहल है जो 20वीं सदी में स्थापित अन्य ग्लोबल इंस्टीट्यूशंस के रिफॉर्म के लिए एक मिसाल बन सकता है।
But this is just the first round of expansion of BRICS. Over 20 formal applications have been received and more than 40 countries want in. A list of prospective members is expected to be shared with member countries very soon. Trade in local currencies with each other also dominated the agenda. The Johannesburg Declaration too says it awaits reports and feedback on this. It's tasked the finance ministers to report on payment instruments and platforms by the next summit. It expressed concern at the negative impact of conflict on developing countries and called for comprehensive reform in the UN and the Security Council. In addition, India stressed the importance of Africa, reiterating support for inclusion of the African Union in the G20. India is Africa's fourth largest trade partner and the fifth largest investor. We are also working with Africa in the fight against terrorism as well as piracy.
भारत एक विश्वसनीय और करीबी साझेदार है। ग्लोबल साउथ की चिंताओं को मुख्य धारा में शामिल करने के लिए हमने 3 अफ्रीकी देशों तथा कई विकासशील देशों को गेस्ट कंट्री के रूप में आमंत्रित किया है। भारत ने अफ्रीकन यूनियन को G20 की स्थायी सदस्यता देने का प्रस्ताव भी रखा है।
The BRICS group says it wants to bring diversity amid increasing polarization. This as Prime Minister Modi and China's Xi Jinping exchanged pleasantries and met on the sidelines. The two leaders also discussed the situation on the LAC.
In a conversation with President Xi Jinping of China, Prime Minister highlighted India's concerns on the unresolved issues along the LAC in the western sector of the India-China border areas. Prime Minister underlined that the maintenance of peace and tranquility in the border areas and observing and respecting the LAC are essential for the normalization of the India-China relationship.
Bilaterals with South Africa as well as other countries like Iran, Ethiopia and Senegal also took place in Johannesburg. With Kadambani Sharma, Parmeshwar Bawa for NDTV. So 6 more countries are now set to enter BRICS as full members from the 1st of January 2024. It's an expansion which has been pressed by China and also welcomed by India, two neighbors involved in border strife, and they're competing as well. But what does it mean for BRICS and especially India? Once again, New Delhi is back in the thick of global geopolitics of things, chairing summits and negotiating place at the high table of global governance. Now, while experts argue that the ability of BRICS to reorder or steer the global economy in any significant manner is deeply suspect, some analysts argue that the bloc's appetite to create economic agreements amongst its own members is limited and its historical capability to influence global geopolitics overestimated. But going forward, this club is capable of influencing the future of world politics. We have seen just the first round of expansion of the BRICS bloc. There are questions now whether BRICS is going to be too big and unwieldy. More expansions may follow, and a list of prospective partner countries is set to be drawn up by the next summit. Now, the second big point is, do the interests of BRICS members align? It looks difficult with members like Iran. As far as problems for India are concerned, while India is trying to balance Washington with BRICS, the expansion pushed by China now poses the question whether it's a diplomatic win for China. India nonetheless has positioned itself as a key consensus maker, but it's crucial to note that Brazil was opposed to the BRICS club expansion. Meanwhile, geopolitical analysts believe the entry of Saudi Arabia will give more heft. Meanwhile, at their first direct conversation in over 9 months, Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping seem to have remained at their respective positions on the border standoff. While China publicly claimed that the informal talks were based on an Indian request, top government sources have refuted it, clarifying that there was a pending request from the Chinese side. Our sources said the two leaders, however, had an informal conversation at the Leaders' Lounge during the BRICS Summit in Johannesburg. The two leaders in the meeting agreed to work for expeditious de-escalation along the entire line of actual control, where tensions have been high since June 2020, when the two sides clashed in eastern Ladakh's Galwan Valley. Meanwhile, after attending the 3-day BRICS Summit, Prime Minister Modi is on a 1-day visit to Greece. Well, the Prime Minister became the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Greece in 40 years, in 4 decades. The Prime Minister said India and Greece are a natural match and highlighted the foundation of the ties between the two countries is ancient and strong. After bilateral talks, both countries agreed to double trade by the year 2030, and the Prime Minister was also conferred with the top Greek honor, the Grand Cross of Order, by the Greek President.
आज प्रधानमंत्री जी और मैंने भारत ग्रीस पार्टनरशिप को स्ट्रैटेजिक स्तर पर ले जाने का निर्णय लिया है। हमने तय किया है कि हम डिफेंस एंड सिक्योरिटी, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, कृषि, शिक्षा, न्यू एंड इमर्जिंग टेक्नोलॉजी और स्किल डेवलपमेंट के क्षेत्रों में अपने सहयोग को बढ़ाकर अपनी स्ट्रैटेजिक पार्टनरशिप को मजबूती देंगे। प्रधानमंत्री जी और मैं सहमत है कि हमारा द्विपक्षीय व्यापार तेजी से बढ़ रहा है और आगे भी बढ़ोतरी की अपार संभावनाएं हैं। इसलिए हमने वर्ष 2030 तक अपने द्विपक्षीय व्यापार को 2 गुना करने का लक्ष्य तय किया है।
I realize that in recent years our relations have greatly improved, but and our high-level contacts have become more frequent. But there is a basis for a very wide range of cooperation in the fields of the economy, defense, and to culture and tourism, and from our cooperation in the agricultural sector after signing the memorandum until the joint defense against the climate change.
Well, in other news, Russian President Vladimir Putin will not participate in the G20 Leaders Summit to be held in New Delhi on the 9th and 10th of September. This is what the press secretary to the Russian president has confirmed. Putin has remained absent from recent international summits. He did not attend last year's G20 summit in Bali and similarly stayed away from the 15th BRICS Summit in person that has concluded in Johannesburg. Well, in other news, former US President Donald Trump now has a mugshot. Facing 13 counts related to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election, Trump surrendered to Georgia law enforcement. He was taken into custody, or as he put it on his social media platform, arrested by a radical left low-life district attorney. An American president in a police mugshot. Not something the United States has seen before. Jail records show that Donald Trump was placed under arrest on Thursday night in connection with the Georgia election subversion case. He has been booked for racketeering and conspiracy. Released soon after on a $200,000 bond, Trump headed back home to New Jersey, but not before he told the media at the airport that he had done nothing wrong.
I really believe this is a very sad day for America. This should never happen. If you challenge an election, you should be able to challenge an election. I thought the election was a rigged election, a stolen election, and I should have every right to do that. Is what has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong, and everybody knows it.
Trump has been indicted 4 times in 5 months.
I like to check the polls.
If convicted, experts believe it could improve his chances in the 2024 elections. On the other hand, his conviction could hinder his campaign, paving the way for Ron DeSantis to become the Republican contender in the 2024 presidential race. NDTV Bureau Report. Meanwhile, we spoke with the US Ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti, also a close aide of the US President, regarding Joe Biden's G20 agenda, whether India can broker peace between Russia and Ukraine, and whether the US feels threatened with this expansion of the BRICS bloc. Listen in to all this and more, including his thoughts on the move from LA to New Delhi. We are joined by the US Ambassador in India, Eric Garcetti. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on NDTV.
Absolutely. Great to be with you.
Thank you so much. We know the US President is going to be touching down in New Delhi from the 7th of September. What's top of his agenda?
I think first and foremost, a successful G20. and a chance to see a country he loves, a government that he's engaged with, and his counterpart, who he just welcomed in Washington for a historic visit 2 months ago. The momentum has not let up. We know that America loves India, and India loves America, but it's more than just symbolism. It's about producing good outcomes that improve the quality of life for global citizens and lifting up India's incredible leadership in G20.
You've been here over 100 days now, and you've traversed around 12 cities. You've got the pulse of the country. Do you think India stands a chance to broker peace between Russia and Ukraine?
I would hope all of our friends and all global nations will speak for peace and work for peace. Peace doesn't come automatically. In some ways, it's easier to start a war than to end one. But we have been seeing great steps and signs coming from the leaders here in India of engaging, whether it was in Saudi recently with NSA Doval going, or whether it's some of the sideline meetings, like meeting with President Zelensky in Hiroshima. We can't do this alone, but we should stand for principle together, that no country should invade another. I think India and Indians know how important sovereignty and borders are.
Absolutely.
And that's the principle that we're standing for. As two democracies, I would hope both of us can help land that peace. People are dying as we speak, and they're counting on us.
But countries turning eastwards, as we've seen during the BRICS Summit in Johannesburg. First, your thoughts on the BRICS expansion. And countries turning eastwards, does this pose a threat to the United States?
You know, I come from Los Angeles, so when some people maybe on the east coast of our country look at going eastward, it's actually westward. It's where we've been looking my entire life. I'm a child of the Indo-Pacific, and so to me it's an exciting thing. And remember, America is an Indo-Pacific country. The other side is Atlantic, but for many of us, this is not only where the most important trade growth, the most important security issues are, but a place that will continue to have attention. In terms of BRICS or G20, we want people to know that America stands for not just the engagement of countries that are doing well, but most importantly, the lifting up of countries that still have places to go. Women's empowerment, getting out from under crushing debt, building infrastructure, going from countries that just have their resources extracted and exploited to places that have vibrant and diversified economies. So I think we always welcome to the more voices that are there, but more than symbolism, it's about action. And coming back to G20, this is a chance for G7 countries and Global South countries to be together and to really say there's a lot less that separates us than you'd think. During the pandemic, we learned that when countries like India were so important to the global solutions. And I think in the future, whether it's climate, whether it's women, whether it's looking at the ways we have to space. I mean, this week, congratulations, so exciting. We need to be together. And from the seabed to space, we are, U.S. and India, working together as a force for good.
Right. And as far as recession is concerned in your country, are things looking up currently, or is the recession still on the radar?
No, I mean, we always have to be careful of that in any global economy, and certainly in the United States, but a record number of jobs, lowest unemployment we've ever seen. And we've also seen some very important indicators in terms of job growth. Wages are going up, which means the quality of life for Americans has improved. But we want to engage with India on this. We want to see a frictionless relationship so that American goods and services can more readily be here, and vice versa. What's exciting about today is Indian companies are investing in America, creating jobs in the United States and bringing profits back here. That's not always how history has worked in India, and we think it's a powerful new image for how the global kind of evolution can go, that it isn't about one region, it's not about developed and developing, it's about close friends finding out the rules that help everybody prosper.
About close friends finding out the rules that help everyone prosper. That's the big takeaway. As we wrap, what's the shift been like from LA to New Delhi?
It feels like home. I miss Los Angeles. I love LA, but going from Hollywood to Bollywood has been so easy. And one thing that reminds me of home, coming from California, we're very hospitable. Indians are so warm, so welcoming, and they've got the best food.
Well, we hope we don't let you down while you're here. Thank you so much, Mr. Garcetti, for joining us on NDTV.
Thank you.
Parmeshwar Bawa with Adam Siddiqui in New Delhi for NDTV. Let's turn our attention now to what's happening in Russia. Just 2 months ago, Wagner Group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin had led his militia in a mutiny against the Russian regime. Now, Prigozhin is believed to have been involved in a fatal plane crash, as per the Russian state media confirmation. While speculation is rife that Putin, who is notoriously unforgiving of traitors and accused Prigozhin of treason back in June, ordered the downing of the aircraft, there are many unanswered questions at this stage. Here's our report.
Yevgeny Prigozhin, the mercenary leader who led a short-lived mutiny against Russian President Vladimir Putin, has been reported dead in a plane crash. Russia's aviation agency has said that the Wagner Group chief was on board a private jet that crashed in the Tver region near Moscow, killing all 10 on board. No cause for the crash was announced, and the incident raised suspicions. Putin had denounced the June rebellion as treason, but the mercenary leader had escaped immediate retaliation after striking a deal with Kremlin to leave the country and move to Belarus. The embraer plane, which reportedly carried Prigozhin, showed no sign of problems until a sudden drop in its final 30 seconds, according to flight tracking data. Within about 30 seconds, it plummeted more than 8,000 feet from its cruising altitude of 28,000 feet. According to reports, this type of a jet has a good safety record, with only one recorded accident in more than 20 years of service, and that was not related to mechanical failure. Prigozhin's allies quickly accused the Russian Defense Ministry of assassinating him. Grey Zone, a Telegram channel with more than 5 lakh subscribers linked to the Wagner Group, hailed him as a hero and a patriot. US President Joe Biden pointed a finger at Putin when asked whether the Russian president could be involved. While the reported death of Prigozhin doesn't come as a surprise, there are a few questions that need to be answered. Russia's investigative committee said that it has opened a criminal investigation into the plane crash that reportedly killed Prigozhin. The main investigation department of the investigative committee of the Russian Federation initiated a criminal case on the fact of an aviation accident in the Tver region on the grounds of a crime under Article 263 of the Criminal Code of the Russian Federation, violation of traffic safety rules and operation of air transport. Prigozhin enjoyed strong support in Russia. Soon after his demise, people were seen bringing flowers and candles to a makeshift memorial outside Wagner's office building in St. Petersburg. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report, NDTV.
India's moon mission Chandrayaan-3 has made a successful soft landing near the moon's south pole, bringing cheer to 1 billion hearts and propelling India to the elite space club. As Chandrayaan-3 signals the launch of India's time in space exploration, Russian President Vladimir Putin was among the first world leaders to congratulate us, calling our moon landing an impressive achievement just days after Moscow's own mission crashed. The US Department of State's Bureau of Oceans and International Environmental and Scientific Affairs has said Chandrayaan-3's success will power the imagination of people in the future, while the US National Security Advisor also praised what he called a historic landing. South Africa's president congratulated us, adding that for the BRICS family, this is a momentous occasion. Meanwhile, the Director General of the European Space Agency called the landing of Chandrayaan-3 an incredible event, praising our demonstration of new technologies. Also, the NASA administrator hailed the India-US partnership on Artemis Accords, which aims to establish a common vision via a practical set of principles and best practices. Meanwhile, within a few hours of the Google CEO congratulating India, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk also reacted to it. The data from Chandrayaan-3 scientific instruments will be crucial because the mission will be the first to physically, chemically and thermally characterize the soil and air near the moon's south pole on location. So India now has some measure of technological superiority now compared to most other spacefaring countries. Well, that's all we could pack on this episode of India Global. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.